We'd been married for almost 7 years. Life wasn't perfect, but I thought we were solid. We had our routines. Monday nights were for takeout and TV. Saturdays were usually spent cleaning or running errands. And Sunday mornings meant pancakes and coffee in the kitchen. We didn't have kids yet, but we talked about it sometimes, in that way couples do when they're not sure if they're ready or just waiting for the right time. I worked long hours at my job, but I made sure every bill was paid on time. She didn't have to worry about the mortgage or car payments. If she wanted something, she usually got it. A weekend getaway, a new phone, clothes, nothing fancy, but I always made it work. I wasn't rich, but I was dependable. That mattered to me. I thought it mattered to her too. We laughed sometimes, we had our inside jokes, we watched the same shows on Netflix, even if she always fell asleep halfway through. We had our little life, our little world. That was enough for me. I wasn't the romantic type, but I tried. Flowers once in a while, surprise dinners, warm hugs when she looked tired. I didn't think I was failing her. She had her space, nights out with friends, yoga classes, solo shopping trips, whatever she needed. I never once told her no. I believed that trust meant letting someone breathe, and I trusted her completely, foolishly. Looking back, there were signs. Her phone started living in her pocket or face down on the couch. She started spending more time in the bathroom or stepping outside to take private calls. She laughed more at texts than she did at anything I said. Some nights she'd turn away in bed, claiming she was tired or had a headache. Intimacy wasn't dead, but it was definitely on life support. I chalked it up to stress, work, hormones, routine. I never imagined anything worse. She started to seem distant, like her body was there, but her mind was somewhere else, somewhere I wasn't allowed to go. I'd ask if everything was okay, and she'd smile, say, "Of course," and kiss me on the cheek. That kiss used to feel warm. Now it felt like a bandage covering something broken underneath. Still, I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. I told myself all marriages hit dry spells. I told myself I just needed to be more patient, more understanding. I kept showing up, doing my part, hoping things would bounce back. Then one day, it happened. I saw something small, easy to overlook. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And that's when everything began to unravel. One forgotten message. That was all it took to blow apart the life I thought we had. It started with a strange laugh. Not mine, not hers, but from her phone late one night while she was in the shower. I was half asleep on the couch when it buzzed, screen lighting up just enough for me to catch a name I didn't recognize. A message preview popped up, something playful, followed by a winking emoji. I didn't open it, I just stared at the screen, unsure whether to feel confused, angry, or nothing at all. When she came out of the bathroom, I mentioned the message casually, trying not to sound accusatory. She dried her hair with a towel and said it was probably a group chat or some friend joking around. Her voice was calm, but her eyes flicked away from mine a little too fast. I let it go, even smiled, but something inside me shifted. Something I couldn't name just yet. A few days later, she started guarding her phone like it was gold. Always on silent, always in her hand, even while cooking or folding laundry. If I asked her to pass it to me or check something, she'd hesitate, then find a reason to do it herself. Once I walked in and saw her quickly swiping away from a screen. When I asked what she was doing, she laughed nervously and said she was just reading a meme. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I told myself I was being paranoid, insecure, maybe even unfair. We all deserve privacy, right? I didn't want to be the husband who reads his wife's messages behind her back. That's not the kind of man I am. Or so I thought. The distance between us kept growing. She started going out more, said she needed time alone, needed space to think, said I'd been distracted lately. I didn't know what she meant. I was working, providing, trying. But according to her, I wasn't present enough. I wasn't attentive. I wasn't giving her what she needed. She never quite explained what that was, though. There were new clothes, new makeup, sudden interest in looking fresh, even for a quick grocery run. Her late nights became more frequent. She'd come home tired, barely speak, crawl into bed facing the other way. If I asked questions, she'd get defensive. Accused me of not trusting her, said I was acting controlling. That word stung. I'd never told her where she could go or who she could see. Deep down, I still wanted to believe I was wrong, that this was all in my head, that things were just hard and we'd get through it. But my gut said otherwise. It whispered that something was off and had been for a while. That message I saw kept replaying in my mind like a loop I couldn't shut off. One night, while she was asleep beside me, I reached for her phone. My hands shook, my heart pounded. I didn't know what I'd find, but I knew I had to look. The messages were everywhere, long threads of texts, most of them late at night. Different names, different tones, some flirty, some straight up explicit. One guy called her babe. Another asked if she was still thinking about last Thursday. Photos too, ones she'd never sent me. Poses I'd never seen, smiles I didn't recognize. It wasn't just one man, it wasn't even two. There were at least 4 different names in the last few months alone, each conversation carrying its own twisted story. At first it felt like a punch to the chest. Then the numbness hit. It was like my brain couldn't fully process what my eyes were seeing. My fingers scrolled without permission, each swipe slicing deeper. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a pattern. This wasn't a mistake. This was a lifestyle she'd chosen behind my back. There were dates, hotel receipts, even rideshare confirmations. She'd been lying to my face day after day while I was paying bills, folding laundry, thinking we were just in a rough patch. She stirred in her sleep while I sat there frozen, holding her phone like a loaded gun. My heart was racing, but I didn't know whether to scream or cry. I just sat there feeling everything and nothing all at once. It wasn't the cheating that crushed me the most. It was the effort she'd put into hiding it, the ease with which she lived a double life, the realization that I never really knew her. The next morning, I waited until she finished her coffee. I placed the phone in front of her and simply said, "I know." Her face didn't change at first, just a flicker of her eyes. Then she reached for the phone slowly, like maybe she could erase it all if she moved gently enough. She didn't deny it, not once. Instead, she set the phone down and sighed, like she was the one who was tired of this conversation. I asked her why. I needed to hear it. I needed some kind of answer to make sense of what she'd done. That's when she said it, softly, like she was just stating a fact. "Because you stopped paying attention. You were always busy. I felt alone." Those words hit harder than anything else, not because I believed them, but because it meant she'd already made up her mind to blame me. She had taken everything I gave, my time, my loyalty, my effort, and tossed it aside, then had the nerve to point the finger at me. I wasn't perfect, but I didn't lie. I didn't sneak around. I didn't give my heart to strangers. I was there. I showed up. She sat there calmly like she had nothing left to lose. No apology, no shame, just excuses. That moment changed everything. Whatever love I still thought I had for her started to die right there at that table. Not because she cheated, but because she didn't even care that she had. She didn't just cheat, she flipped the script. After getting caught, she didn't cry, didn't apologize, didn't even try to explain. Instead, she leaned into blame. She said I was distant, that I worked too much, that I didn't make her feel wanted. It didn't matter that I was pulling long hours to keep the roof over our heads. It didn't matter that I brought her coffee in bed every Sunday, or that I always asked how her day was. None of that counted. She told me I had emotionally abandoned her, and this was just the result of that. At first, her words confused me. Maybe I really had been too focused on work. Maybe I hadn't been romantic enough. Maybe I'd let the relationship slip without realizing. That doubt crawled in like poison, and I started to question every little thing. I went back through my own memories, wondering if I'd missed signs, if I was blind to her unhappiness. But no matter how far back I went, I knew I had tried. I had been there, I had loved her the best I knew how. Then the whispers started. Friends began pulling away. Her sister stopped replying to my messages. Mutual friends looked uncomfortable around me, avoiding eye contact or making awkward small talk. That's when I realized she had already laid the groundwork. She'd told them her version first, made herself the victim, said I was cold, inattentive, maybe even controlling. She painted herself as the woman who tried everything, but was pushed away by a man who didn't care. The lies weren't just personal, they were public. She posted vague captions online about being strong after heartbreak, and how some people only love you when it's convenient. People I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly commenting, praising her for her bravery. They didn't know the truth. They didn't see the messages. They didn't live in the house where she came home at 2 a.m., reeking of another man's cologne, offering nothing but silence when asked where she'd been. She said I made her feel invisible, that I never looked at her the way I used to. She cried once, not for what she did, but because I found out, and even in that moment, she made it about me. If you really loved me, she said, you would have noticed I wasn't happy. That line broke something inside me. Love isn't mind reading. Love isn't giving someone a free pass to destroy you because they had a bad day. Love is communication. Love is effort. Love is loyalty. I realized then that she wasn't just cheating on me. She was emotionally manipulating me into believing I deserved it. Every conversation twisted. Every argument turned into a guilt trip. She brought up past fights, small things from years ago, using them like weapons to justify her betrayal. It was always my fault in her story, and in that quiet, soul-crushing moment, I knew it. This isn't love. The house was quiet that morning, unusually quiet. No music playing, no sound of the TV in the background, no fake cheer in the air. Just silence, the kind that makes your chest feel heavy. She was still asleep in the bedroom. I stood in the living room, staring at the same walls that once made me feel at home, but now felt like they were closing in. Every picture frame, every piece of furniture, even the smell of her shampoo in the air, it all felt like a lie. I didn't pack much, just the basics. A duffel bag with a few changes of clothes, my laptop, some toiletries. I grabbed a framed photo of my parents, not because I needed it, but because it reminded me of what love was supposed to look like. I left the rest. The expensive watch she gave me for our anniversary, still in the drawer. The hoodie she always stole from me when she was cold, hanging on the back of the chair, untouched. I didn't want souvenirs from something that had turned into a nightmare. My toothbrush was still in the cup next to hers. For a moment I hesitated, looking at those two brushes standing side by side like they still belonged together. Then I picked mine up and tossed it into the bag. No second thoughts. She came out of the bedroom half awake, rubbing her eyes. She saw the bag by the door and froze. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice flat. No panic, no emotion. Just a question, like I was heading out for groceries. "I'm done," I said. That was it. No shouting, no dramatic goodbye. I didn't owe her a performance. She blinked a few times, then crossed her arms and leaned against the doorway. "So that's it?" she said. "You're just walking away?" I looked at her and nodded. "I should have walked away the first time you lied. I just didn't want to believe who you really were." She didn't follow me, didn't cry, didn't ask me to stay. Just stood there, lips pressed together, as if she was annoyed more than anything else. Like I had taken away her favorite toy. I walked through the house slowly, soaking in every detail one last time. The couch where we used to watch movies. The kitchen where we danced that one New Year's Eve. The hallway where I first kissed her. Every space filled with memories, now ruined. At the front door, I took a breath. My hand lingered on the doorknob for a second. I wasn't walking into something new. I was walking away from something broken. Behind me was betrayal. Behind me was pain. Ahead of me, I didn't know yet. I opened the door, stepped outside, and closed it behind me. The air hit me like a wave. I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Free, but emotionally gutted. I didn't look back. The first night away felt unreal. The room was small, just a basic hotel on the edge of town, but it was quiet. Too quiet. No familiar footsteps, no hum of the dishwasher, no creak of the bedroom door, just the low buzz of the fridge and the occasional car outside. The bed was clean, untouched, and for the first time in years, mine alone. But there was no comfort in that. Sleep didn't come easily. Thoughts kept looping in my head, her voice, her excuses, the faces of the men I'd seen in her messages. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the silence stretch long into the night. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see those text threads again, like I'd memorized each line without meaning to. At some point, I gave up trying to sleep and sat at the edge of the bed, my feet on the cold tile floor, just breathing. The second day felt heavier than the first. Reality hit hard. This was real. The marriage was over. I was alone. I'd spent so long building a life with her that I didn't know what life without her looked like. Coffee from the vending machine didn't taste like home. Breakfast was a half-eaten granola bar and the same shirt from yesterday. I didn't even care. I just wanted the day to be over. A friend called, one of the few who hadn't taken her side. He didn't say much, just asked where I was and told me I could crash at his place if I needed to. That offer meant more than he probably realized, not because I needed a place to stay, but because someone still saw me, someone still believed me. When everything falls apart, the smallest kindness feels like a lifeline. The world kept spinning. People were out walking dogs, going to work, laughing in cafes. Life moved on like nothing had happened, but inside, everything felt broken. A smile from a stranger at the gas station made me want to cry, and I didn't even know why. It was like I'd forgotten how to be normal, how to just exist without pain pressing down on my chest. By the fourth day, I forced myself to shower and go for a walk, just a short one, around the block. The air felt different, cool, clean, like the start of something. For the first time, I looked up instead of down. The sky was clear, the sun was out. It didn't fix anything, but it reminded me that I was still here, still breathing. That night I made my own breakfast for dinner. Scrambled eggs, toast, nothing fancy, but I made it. And when I sat down to eat, I realized it was the first time I'd actually tasted food in days. A small step maybe, but it was mine, and that was enough to keep going. Mornings started differently now. No alarm blaring to rush into a house filled with tension. No cold stares across the breakfast table. Just sunlight leaking through the window and the sound of nothing. Peaceful, honest silence. The first few days were rough, but eventually the routine began to settle. Wake up, make coffee, go for a walk, small steps, quiet progress. The gym became a regular stop, not for vanity, but to burn the weight of frustration. Each rep carried the memory of betrayal. Each drop of sweat washed away a bit of anger. There was something therapeutic in the rhythm, lifting, breathing, pushing through. It didn't fix everything, but it helped remind what strength felt like. Therapy followed soon after, not because of some breakdown, but because talking to someone who didn't have a side felt like the right move. The first session was awkward, filled with pauses and tight-throated answers. But over time, the walls began to fall. Admitting the hurt didn't make it worse, it made it lighter. The therapist didn't offer magic fixes, just space to unpack everything that had been bottled up for too long. Journaling became a nightly ritual. A cheap notebook and a decent pen were all it took to start emptying the noise onto paper. No filters, no edits, just truth. The words weren't always pretty. Some pages were angry rants, others were full of questions. But every entry was a release, every sentence a step forward. The job became a focus again, but this time without guilt. Late nights at the office no longer felt like running away. They were building blocks, progress, promotion, personal growth. Co-workers noticed the change, more present, more focused, sharper. It wasn't about escaping the past anymore. It was about building something new, something that no one could take away. Old texts were deleted, photos too. Social media accounts were scrubbed, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. Carrying that digital weight served no purpose. Letting it go was a declaration. The past doesn't get to follow. Looking back, the red flags had been there. The secrecy, the emotional distance, the way she never accepted blame. At the time, those signs were brushed off, smoothed over with hope. But now they were clear. Hindsight sharpened every memory, and with it came clarity. Not just about her, but about boundaries, about self-worth, about love. There were moments of doubt, of course, nights when the silence got too loud, times when forgiveness seemed easier than healing. But those moments passed. Slowly the scars began to fade. The lessons stayed. Trust isn't blind. Love isn't supposed to feel like guessing. And loyalty means nothing if it's one-sided. Friends who stayed through the storm became lifelines. New people came into the picture too. Genuine connections, no games. Laughter returned in small doses, unexpected but welcome. The world didn't end. It just started again, differently. I wasn't perfect, but I never deserved this. The first message came late at night, just 2 words. I'm sorry. No explanation, no follow-up, just silence after that. A few hours later, another one followed. Can we talk? Then a missed call. By morning, there were 5 texts, each more desperate than the last. She said she missed me, that things hadn't been the same since I left, that she'd made a terrible mistake, that she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. It was hard not to feel something, not love, not hope, just surprise. After everything, she still thought there was a door left open. Maybe she was used to people taking her back. Maybe she thought a few sad words would erase everything she did. But things had changed. I had changed. The man who would have dropped everything to hear her out no longer existed. She called again the next day. This time I answered. Her voice trembled soft the way it used to sound when she wanted something. She told me she was lost without me, that no one understood her the way I did, that she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, that she'd made mistakes, plural, but they didn't mean anything. She said I was her rock, her constant, and begged for a chance to fix it. I let her talk, let her get it all out, not because I was considering it, but because I needed to hear her say it. I needed to hear the truth, even if it came dressed in excuses. When she was done, I didn't yell, I didn't break down. I just told her calmly, you chose them over me. You broke us, and now I'm choosing me. There was silence on the line, then a week. So, that's it? That's it, I replied. I'm not angry, I'm just done. She cried, said she never expected me to turn cold, said I used to be so soft with her. I didn't remind her why I had hardened. I didn't bring up the messages, the lies, the blame. She knew, she just never thought she'd lose control. The conversation ended without closure for her, but for me it was peace. No more guessing, no more hoping, no more weight on my chest. I walked away from the call, feeling lighter than I had in months. A week later, she showed up outside the building where I worked, said she just wanted to see me, to talk in person. I didn't go out. I watched from the window as she stood there waiting, then eventually left. No drama, no confrontation, just a final, quiet goodbye. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't payback, it was freedom. Saying no wasn't about punishing her, it was about protecting myself. I had given everything once and she broke it. There was no second round, no repair. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. I chose peace over chaos. I chose healing over history. Most importantly, I chose me. Letting go didn't happen all at once. It came in small choices, quiet moments, and long silences where peace slowly replaced the noise. One morning, the decision came without warning. I opened the photo album on my phone and started deleting. Birthday selfies, vacation snapshots, videos of fake smiles and forced laughter. Every image had once held meaning. Now, they just reminded me of a version of myself that kept hoping she'd be someone she never was. Her number was next. Blocked, then deleted. The saved contact that used to be marked with a heart was gone in seconds. At first, my finger hovered, but there was no real hesitation. It felt like closing the last chapter of a book I'd read too many times, trying to find a different ending that never came. Even my daily routine began to change. The songs that reminded me of her were replaced. The places we used to visit I avoided at first, then slowly started reclaiming. The coffee shop down the street became mine again. I went alone, ordered something new, and sat by the window without checking my phone. For once, it wasn't about who wasn't there. It was about being okay with being alone. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It took time. It wasn't about letting her off the hook. It was about freeing myself from the constant replay of betrayal. Every time I chose not to speak badly about her, not to revisit the hurt, not to wish her misery, I took back a piece of myself. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It meant the pain no longer controlled the narrative. People asked if I was seeing anyone. I wasn't. But I had started talking to someone new, not in a romantic way, just conversation, light and simple. No pressure, no expectations, just connection. It felt different, easy. It reminded me that not everyone carries daggers behind their smile. Some people just want to talk, laugh, and understand. The anger slowly faded. What was left behind was something softer, clarity. I saw the signs I once ignored. I understood the ways I had been gaslit, blamed, and manipulated, and I also saw my own strength. I hadn't just survived it, I had walked through it with dignity. For the first time in a long time, the air felt different, lighter, like the weight I'd been dragging behind me had finally come off. There was no grand moment, no dramatic breakthrough, just a quiet morning, a steady breath, and the calm realization that I was free. There was no bitterness left, just space. Space for better things, better people, better days. The past would always be there, but it no longer had a grip on my future. Letting go wasn't giving up. It was choosing peace over pain. And in doing that, I finally got my life back. Looking back, it's hard to believe how far things have come. There was a time when waking up felt like a chore, when every breath carried the weight of betrayal. But with time, the heavy fog lifted. The pain didn't vanish, but it stopped running the show. What once felt like the end of everything slowly revealed itself as the beginning of something much more important. The betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just about cheating, it was about trust, about the quiet comfort of thinking you were safe with someone, only to realize you weren't. It shattered the image of what life was supposed to be. But it didn't break me. It bruised me, knocked me down, sure, but it also forced me to rebuild, stronger, smarter, and more aware of my own worth. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes from having your world fall apart. It strips away the distractions and shows you who you really are. I learned that love without respect isn't love at all, that loyalty shouldn't come at the cost of your dignity, and that sometimes walking away isn't giving up. It's the bravest thing you can do. To anyone going through something similar, know this: it gets better. Not overnight, not without pain, but it does. The nights will feel endless at first. The memories will ambush you when you least expect it. But each day, you'll hurt a little less. You'll wake up, and the first thing on your mind won't be them. Eventually, you'll go an entire day without replaying the past. That's healing. It's slow, it's uneven, but it's real. People will ask how you're doing, and at first, you'll lie. Then one day you won't have to. One day you'll answer honestly and realize that it's no longer a performance. You'll be okay. You'll laugh again, deeply. You'll look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back, not the broken version, but someone wiser, more grounded. The road ahead is yours now. No more walking on eggshells, no more wondering if you're enough. You are. And whatever comes next, whether it's love, friendship, or just quiet contentment, you'll welcome it on your terms. No more settling, no more pretending. There's power in starting over, in choosing peace over chaos, in refusing to shrink yourself for someone who couldn't see your value. It's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving to yourself that you never needed to break to become whole. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about remembering without pain. It's about standing where you once fell and realizing you didn't just survive, you grew. I may have walked out, but I walked into something better, myself.